Okay, well, welcome, Miss Brenda.
Oh
Welcome
my
to the Ace Your
goodness.
Life show.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here, and it took us a couple of times, but we got it done, and I'm so proud. I did have to figure out my calendar a little bit, but now I've got that figured out, so it's all good.
I love it. It's all a
Yeah.
journey, right?
It is. It is. So, the first thing I always like to ask my listeners whenever I first start our podcast is what is your favorite thing that you cannot live without right now? And it can be anything. It can be a shirt, it can be a podcast, it can be a book, it can be a lip gloss.
Actually, it's lip gloss. I
Yay!
love Burt's Bees lip gloss. It
Oh,
just feels so nice on my lips.
mhm.
And I like the color Smucker or something, Pucker, maybe. I think it's
Pucker.
Pucker. Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of a red pucker. It just feels so nice on my lips. And
Yeah.
yes, so that would be the
Well,
one thing.
I am a lip junkie, so I'm going to go out and get it right now. And I will also tag it in the show notes when we figure it out exactly which color it is that you love, because I like to have my listeners able to just go get whatever we're talking about, which is super fun.
Oh, that is a great idea. I might have to do that on my podcast.
I know,
That's a great idea.
I know. I loved Oprah. I love Oprah. And she always had her favorite things. Remember, every year she'd have her favorite things and she would have the whole show and everything. And I was like, I love hearing what people's favorite things are, whatever they are, and just having it. So I do three every episode, and I just do three of whatever I'm loving that week. And I have learned so much from all the ladies I've been interviewing, just really fun, cool stuff that we wouldn't have known about. So, and you never know what anybody's going to say. Like you did lip gloss, and then some people do breakfast, and some people say coffee, and you just never know. So it's super fun. You should try it. Steal it anytime. I don't care.
Yeah, I think I might.
Yeah. So, what I want to talk about is first of all, I am just loving your story about how you've gotten to where you are right now and what you've done to make that happen. So, I kind of want to just get started with that and what your journey to how it took you here and what you're doing right now. So, can you just tell everybody a little bit about that?
Oh, of course. So, I am in my late 40s, and I think that's relevant because there's something that happened for me after turning 40 where I felt more authentic than I'd ever felt at any other stage in my life. And
Mhm.
I loved turning 40. I loved turning 45, and I'm excited to turn 50 because I
It's the best.
feel like, the more I rack up the years, the more I become me.
Yep.
And so all of that plays into my story. So I was the original people pleaser.
Oh,
And
me too.
when I say people pleaser, I mean I was standing at the back of a church getting ready to walk down the aisle and had the thought, I don't think this is right, and decided to walk down the aisle anyway
Mm.
because I was worried about what all the people who had come to the wedding would think.
Oh.
And so people pleasers have a special place in my heart because I understand that struggle really intimately. And that marriage ended up, even though it was filled with love, it ended up to be very abusive. And I left it with two suitcases, $400, and a 5-year-old daughter in 2007. And
Oh.
we moved into a domestic violence shelter where we lived for a little bit. And while we recovered, and it was so great to be there because I had access to the counseling that I needed. We had daily counseling, we had weekly group counseling, and that went on for quite some time until I sort of graduated until I could do weekly counseling instead of daily. Um,
Oh.
because things were moving so fast in my world.
Yeah.
And eventually we moved in with my parents, and they had just moved to the town I was living in, which at the time was Boise, Idaho.
Mhm.
And we lived with them for a few months. And then I was 35 at the time.
Mhm.
And I was craving my independence as an adult and decided I was going to move out of my parents' house, even though I still had the same two suitcases and a couple of boxes that my mom had given me and a couple of boxes that a friend had given me. And I rented this house and just took the leap. And at the time, I was a Mary Kay sales director.
Mm.
And my Mary Kay sisterhood from all over the Treasure Valley in Idaho furnished our house in one day. They
Wow.
brought in furniture, lawnmower, washers and dryers, toys for my daughter, clothes for both of us,
Oh,
dishes, cups, pots, and pans. I mean, they furnished our house. We wanted for nothing.
oh, that's awesome.
It was just stunning. And I decided at that moment, even though I knew I was in no condition to help anybody, I decided in that moment that I was going to make it my mission to empower other people and to help women.
Mhm.
And so I did the healing that I needed to do, which took quite some time, honestly. And then in about 2009, 2010, I discovered yoga. And that led me down this beautiful path of embodiment and being able to kind of reclaim my own personal power. And it was in a yoga class that I met a woman who was a Reiki master, and she offered me a session. She said, "Come try it. I'll treat you to a session."
Oh,
And
I've
I was like,
always wanted to try that.
"What?" Oh, we should do that. Next time we're in the same space, we should do
Oh,
that.
yes, please. Oh, yeah, maybe in November. Yeah.
Maybe in November. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she treated me to a session and I was like, oh, I need more of this in my life. So I signed up for her Reiki 1 certification. And then I signed up for her Reiki 2 certification. And then I went through the Reiki Master program, which was a 6-month program with 100 hours of practicum. And I loved it. And then I got introduced to theta healing, which is a meditation technique developed by Viana Stiebel in 1995. And I was like, okay, I must have more of this. And so I became an advanced Reiki, or excuse me, I was a Reiki master by that time. I became an advanced theta healing practitioner and opened my business in 2015 and have really been living into my mission, which is to empower other women through healing and coaching, both one-on-one and in groups. And so whether or not somebody's story is like mine, I feel like there's so much space for us to claim our own power.
Mhm.
And I, as an empowerment coach, I can't give someone power, but I can give them the tools to find their own. And
Oh,
so that's what I do.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I think, my whole podcast is about empowering women to feel good every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many of my friends, and I just turned 50 this year. And it's like you have these little kids and you raise them and then they go away. And then you're like, now what do I do? I mean, I've spent all my energy and all my time and all my life really pouring into these kids and this family and whatever. And it's just so nice to know and to hear from everyone I've spoken to throughout this year of doing this podcast. It's amazing to hear we all have the same story. I mean, it's all just about really just trying to find what makes you feel good and really focusing on that every day, even if it's just little bits. And then, I mean, the Reiki, I am dying to try that. So, I mean, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. I know, are you still doing that? Yes, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, I am. In fact, excuse me, I'm hosting a Reiki 1 retreat on the Oregon coast in November, in mid-November. And so Reiki is, excuse me, a form of Japanese energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
And Reiki energy is the universal energy that we all have. And Reiki in particular promotes the body's natural relaxation response, which allows your body to heal itself. And so Reiki 1 really deals with the physical healing on the physical body, the physical level. And then we can share Reiki with our animals. We can use Reiki in our spaces, like our workspaces, our homes,
Mm-hmm.
and Reiki on ourselves in self-healing. And then, so there are other certifications. Of course, the Reiki 2 focuses on the mental healing, and the emotional healing. And then the Reiki Master Program really focuses on that spiritual healing and connection to source. But the Oregon Coast Retreat is designed to have a really immersive experience in Reiki and then end with that Reiki 1 attunement. And so I have found my life so much richer since bringing in Reiki, because there are some guiding principles to Reiki that just help us think about, how do we want to show up in our lives? How do we want to feel today? what do we want to think about today? And it's
Mhm.
really that present moment awareness, because if we start thinking about how do I want to feel tomorrow or next week or next month or even next year, it sometimes feels too big.
Mhm.
If we just feel a way today, it feels like, okay, I can manage this for today.
Yes. Yes. I love, oh gosh, this is all exactly what my girls love to hear. Okay, let me ask you another question. If you have physical pain, so like right now, my husband has a terrible back injury and he's just going back and forth to all these chiropractors and things. Is Reiki something that can help with that, or is it more a, a spiritual thing?
It's both and.
It's a physical thing.
It's
Yeah.
both and. Yeah. And
Okay.
so is theta healing, by the way. Both are both and. I will
Okay.
say that neither of these healing modalities and energy healing in general is not designed to be used as a replacement to
Okay.
your traditional medical care or your mental health care.
Right.
That said, it's a beautiful complement.
Okay.
And I've had tremendous results both in my own body and then for my clients, because our bodies are talking to us. And so, if we have an acute injury, like for you mentioned your husband had an injury, then there's
Mm-hmm.
some healing that can take place. And there's things that we can say as far as affirmations that help promote that healing. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we change how the energy is showing up in the body, we can also promote that healing in the body.
Yeah, because it's usually, we were just talking about this today. It's dis-ease. It's when your body is not at ease, when you're stressed, or when you have all these things that you're constantly putting your focus on that are negative or anxious or whatever. I feel like that is when people get sick or have
Mhm.
injuries or accidents. I mean, I think I told you yesterday I was rushing around from one thing to the next. And then all of a sudden, someone pulled out in front of me and I slammed on my brakes and there was almost an accident. And I thought, okay, what just happened? How do I need to slow down and just take some time and just not put myself in those kind of situations where I'm just rushing and stressed and, all that. So I think this would be a beautiful compliment to anyone's life,
Mhm.
ever. So that's just wonderful. So, oh well, gosh, I love all of this. So tell me what you're working on right now. Like what you've got some things coming up. I think you have something in September, you said, a really fun retreat.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually rescheduled that
Oh,
because
okay.
my own daughter is moving out on October 3rd. And
Oh,
so I was going to have the retreat as we are recording this right now. I was
yeah.
going to be on the Oregon coast.
Oh,
And then
that's
I
right. The
realized,
28th. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I thought, that doesn't feel aligned for me to be out of town in her last month or last week of living at home. And so I
Yeah.
moved it to November so that I could really embrace being a mom right now.
Oh,
And so I rescheduled it. And then I thought, why am I not teaching Reiki? And so I included the Reiki attunement into that retreat.
oh, that's so good. One of the times that you and I were supposed to have an interview, it was because my daughter came in town. Same thing. I think it's just so important to just every day you wake up and you say, okay, what is important to me today? How do I want to feel today? Claim it.
Mhm.
And then everything is figure outable. Like just because you think, oh, I scheduled this retreat and now I can't spend time with her, but you didn't. You said, nope, I'm going to rearrange some things. Maybe the timing will be even better. And now you get to spend time with her, which is just beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. It's so
Yeah.
true. It's always both and if we're
Mm-hmm.
willing to think outside of the box and let go of what we think things should look like,
Mm-hmm.
it creates that space for what would actually feel good.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned something yesterday in one of our things about energy work that you do and boundaries.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of us suffer from lack of boundaries. And maybe you can talk to my audience about, what you do to help women with that or help people with that and just elaborate on that a little bit because you mentioned it yesterday that it's something that you're really specializing in right now. And I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love talking about this because I deal with people pleasers and empaths or highly sensitive people. That
Oh, I'm
really
both of
is
those.
okay.
Fabulous.
And
We're
so the
talking to the right person here.
yay.
Yay.
I think that the thing that comes up for us if we're people pleasers or highly sensitive people or empaths is that we take on energy of other people and we take
Yes.
on their emotions, which
Mhm.
makes it physically painful for us to disappoint them. And
Yes.
so a big part of what I do is teaching people to protect their own energy. And by doing so, then you can still have an awareness of how somebody feels, but you won't have to actually feel it.
Hmm.
And the difference is that when you can separate your own emotions from somebody else's emotions, you're able to make decisions from a
Hmm.
whole new place that feels so much more clear and more aligned. Because, as crazy as it sounds, if you have somebody else's emotional pain in your body when you're trying to make a decision, no matter how much you try to make that decision from a place of alignment for you, you probably are still being influenced by their feelings. So
Hmm.
one of the really simple ways that you can do this is by zipping up your energy. And
Hmm.
so I teach it like you're zipping up a parka. So you
Yeah.
start at your pubic bone and you just make a zipping motion up, 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 up over the top of your head and back over the back of your head and do that 3 times. So you're just zipping, zipping, zipping. And then the third time, zipping, zipping, zipping. You're just zipping up. And because the
I
world
love it.
operates on intent, your intent is to protect your energy. And
Hmm.
so it feels so amazing when you are in a space where you've been taking on emotions from other people. Like when you walk in the door and your partner is mad and you instantly feel anger and you're like, what is this?
I
So if
wasn't
you,
feeling that way before. Yeah, I know. Yes. Yes.
yes. So if you
Uh-huh.
can learn to zip up, then you can
Uh-huh.
be like, oh, that's you.
Yeah.
That you're the one that's mad. I'm not mad.
This has nothing to do with me. I say that to my kids all the time. If they, blow up or they're angry or they, are bugging, I'll just say, you know what? I'm not available for that right now. I'm just not available for that. You're just going to have to figure that out yourself. And now I'm going to start doing the zip all the way over my head. I think that is brilliant because it's so true. Like, especially when you're in a family and you have children, and there's just so many different emotions and so many different energies coming in at all the time, in and out of the house. And it's so great to know that that's something really important that you need to protect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
And
not being selfish, that's just being healthy.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes we almost feel like we need someone to give us permission
Yes.
because, there's two schools of thought about how we become empaths or highly sensitive people. One school of thought says that we're born with it, that some people just have this innate sense of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a new body of researching, a new body of research that's emerging that says that people who grew up in chaotic or stressful homes
Mm.
developed their ability to be highly sensitive or empathic as a coping mechanism because
Oh,
they needed to walk in and read the room. And
yes.
so many of us are searching and we're reading the room all the time. And it puts us in a state of hypervigilance. And
Yeah.
then it's really tough to think clearly when you're worried about what everyone else is thinking and feeling and doing. And so a
Yeah.
big part of what I teach is how to separate yourself out from that and then how to reclaim what it is that you want.
Oh, this is brilliant. This is so brilliant. And I would think that it would just take so much energy to from you. It would zap so much of your precious energy that you only have so much every day because you're walking in, you're scanning a room, you're saying, okay, well, this one's going to expect this out of me. This one's going to expect this out of me. I did hear something about people pleasing, which blew my mind, that really a people pleaser is a little bit of a manipulator because you are trying to get people to like a version of you that's not even really you. It's just
Mm-hmm.
what you think they will expect out of you. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you even know that? It's impossible to know what people will expect out of you until they tell you, I guess. But
Right.
have
And
you
I
heard
always say,
that?
I always say, well, yeah. And I want to definitely come back to that, but how people think about you and what they think and what they expect is not your side of the street, is what I tell my
Right.
clients.
It's none of your
Your side of the
business.
street is how you are feeling, what feels aligned to you, where is your joy, what feels really good and juicy to you right now. And if it feels bad, then this is your permission slip to stop doing that thing. And their response and their expectations are
Mm-hmm.
not your side of the street. They get to have their response and their feelings about it, but you don't have to own that. And so yes, back to your question about people pleasers lacking a certain level of integrity, absolutely that's true. And when you're in the people pleasing, it's really, really hard to remember that because
Mm-hmm.
you think you're doing people a favor by never actually saying no. You think you're doing people a favor when they invite you to this thing and you're like, oh, maybe, because you are worried that the no is going to hurt their feelings. But
Mm-hmm.
what actually happens is people learn that they can't trust you
Mm-hmm.
because you're not telling the truth. And that is a really painful thing for the people in your life. If you are a people pleaser, to think, I don't know when you're being genuine and you want to spend time with me and when you're just saying yes because you're people pleasing me.
This is so good. This is so good. I had a friend tell me this the other day. Well, this was a couple of years ago when I was in my height of my people pleasing. And or I've been doing it for 50 years, but the last 3 years I've gotten a lot better. I have gotten a lot better. But one of my friends said to another friend, what do you think about this shirt or something that I'm wearing? And I was like, oh, it's so cute. And she goes, well, why I never ask you because you would always tell me it looks good. You never tell me the truth. I was
Oh,
like, oh shit,
mm-hmm.
that hurts.
Yeah, that's like a punch to the gut.
It is, but it's also true. It is true. You know what? I always just am like building people up. I'm the biggest cheerleader. Well, that can be to a fault sometimes when people don't trust your judgment and they think you're always just trying to make them feel good and please
Mm-hmm.
them. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. So it is such a good thing to learn how to do that and not just please everyone all the time. You can't, it's impossible. It's
Mm-hmm.
never going to happen.
It is impossible. And so one of the things that people ask first usually is, how do I say no? And
Yeah.
then their second question is, how do I set a boundary? And what even is a boundary?
Yeah. I don't
Like,
even
give
know what
me,
that looks like. Okay, so
yeah.
answer those questions, please,
So
because I would love to hear that.
I think the most effective way to say no is to do so with joy and without explanation.
Okay, so an
And so
example.
an example would be, um, well, let me tell you what the explanation might do. If you
Okay.
offer an explanation when you say no, it
Uh-huh.
gives people an objection to overcome.
Oh.
So if you say, I'm not able to come to that event because I can't find a babysitter that night, then they might start to problem solve your objection.
Oh, I'll get you
So
a babysitter. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. Or my
Mhm.
sister can take your kids. And then you're
Right.
left going to something you don't really want to go to. So the explanation gives people an objection to overcome. So
Oh.
the cleaner you can make it, the better.
Hmm.
And then say it with joy. Oh, I'm not going to be able to make it that night, but thank you so much for thinking of me.
That's it. That
Yeah,
was
just
so easy.
so easy.
No, it's not. It's, well, let's say it's
It's
simple.
simple.
It's not
Yes.
easy. It's uncomfortable, but it's simple.
Yes. But
Yes.
it's actually surprisingly uncomfortable. It's not as uncomfortable as you think. It's way more uncomfortable to be stuck in that, like you're riding two sides of a fence.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how do I say no? How do I say no? I don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable. But when you give a
Yeah.
clean no, it's just like most people will be like, oh, okay, I'll
Yeah.
ask you again another time.
Because most people really are more worried about themselves than they are about you anyway. It's not, they're not really that worried or that concerned with what you're going to do with your life. They're
Exactly.
much more worried about how's this going to affect me? What am
Mm-hmm.
I doing with my life? I've figured that out the hard way too. But that is just okay. So and it gets easier with practice, I assume.
Yeah, it gets easier with practice. The
Okay.
first time is going to make you want to throw up, maybe. But
Yeah.
you know
Hmm.
what? You're going to be so free after doing that. And then it goes back to what we were saying about your friends will begin to know, or whoever it is that's asking you,
Yeah.
they'll begin to know that when you're there, it's because you want to be there.
Yes. And it's authentic.
It's authentic.
It's
It's really
not
clean.
just, yeah, it's clean. This is my new favorite statement in the world. Just the clean communication, clean energy, clean everything. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And then also you said something about boundaries. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us about boundaries. You said, what is a boundary? People ask you that. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Okay. So I'm going to recommend that everybody in the world read Boundary Boss by Terry Cole, because
Love that
Terry
book.
Cole, she just describes it so eloquently and so
Mhm.
easily. And so I really recommend that book. But a
Okay.
boundary is simply like, if you're thinking about property, let's take it out of the emotional interactions between relationships. Let's think
Mhm.
about property. A boundary is showing you where one person's property stops and starts,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So a boundary is the same thing. It's showing you where you start and I start. Where do you end? Where do I begin? So
Mhm.
that's the boundary. So that the more authentic you become in your boundary setting, the more people actually know you.
Mm.
And Terry Cole taught a 4-part boundary statement, which I've adapted a little bit. And it's just really 4 simple parts. I noticed that. I felt. I'd like to make a request. Can we agree? So I noticed that you were late coming home today for dinner. I felt frustrated because I worked to do this, to go to this event with you on time, and then we were late.
Mhm.
I have a request. Could you please communicate with me if you think you're going to be late so that I can choose if I want to meet you there or wait for you there? Can
Mhm.
we agree moving forward that you'll let me know?
Oh, this is so much better than the bullshit silent treatment and then like ignoring the person because you're mad. And then
Right.
there's a whole night of anger and resentment and bad energy and like probably drinking too much at the event because you're so angry. You're doing shots at the bar, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it can turn
Right.
into this ugly beast. And
Yes.
instead, you just use those four statements,
Mm-hmm.
get it out in the open, and then
Yeah.
everybody knows where they went wrong and what they could do better. I love
Right. And
that.
there's
Okay.
such freedom in just speaking our truth. And we make it so much bigger in our minds than it really is. But when you just break it down into those pieces, you say what you saw, how you feel, what you want, and then suggest an agreement. Most people really respond to that. And the
Mm-hmm.
ones that don't respond to that, there's so much juicy information in that non-response. Are
Oh,
they
yeah.
are they not responding to you because you've taught them for so long that this is how you are and maybe just need more time to adapt? That could
Mm-hmm.
be. Or are
Mm-hmm.
they just really not on your side?
Yeah. And then you know where you stand with that. Then
Exactly.
that's more clean and clear.
Yeah, again, with the clean and clear. Mm-hmm.
The whole relationship just shifts. Oh gosh, that is just brilliant. So boundary boss, I'm going to tag that in the show notes because I think it is a brilliant. I got about halfway through it. And then my problem is I get about 42 books that I'm reading at one time. And then I'll read a chapter and then it'll be like, or in my bath time, because I take a bath every night and I lay and I light my candles and I listen to my podcast or whatever book I'm of the flavor of the day. So I'm going to pick that one back up because this is really juicy and really simple. If we could just make it more simple,
Mm-hmm.
I can just make it more simple. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's for all of us, right? Especially
Yeah.
if we identify as people pleasers, setting a boundary has always felt like something other people do. And sometimes we're scared that if we set a boundary, we're going to be keeping everybody out. But the truth
Mhm.
is that when we set boundaries, we can actually have richer relationships because we're communicating authentically.
Yeah. And your voice, I just love your voice. I think it is just so soothing. I'm sure your clients just eat it up because you just have this beautiful, calming, like, oh, it's just so easy. Just say these four things. I'm gonna record that so that I can remember that because oh, it's just wonderful. I love it. I love it. So, okay. So what else do you have coming up? Tell me. I mean, everything. Like you've just been, oh, you have your podcast.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
have
talk
a
about that a
podcast
little?
called
Yeah.
Waves of Joy, and it's
Yeah.
designed to normalize finding joy in the ups and downs of daily life. And
Ah,
it's really fun. Got some fun episodes coming up, and some fun episodes that we've just released.
yeah.
So Jenny Goldfarb of Unreal Deli was on the podcast Sunday, the 20, what would it be? The 25th, I think, of
Yeah.
September.
Uh-huh.
And Pam Grout is going to be on the podcast in October.
Oh, I love
And
Pam Grout, E squared.
yes, yes.
Oh, wow. She's
So
awesome.
she
That's
is awesome.
great. Yeah.
Can't wait for that. So
Yeah.
there's some fun things that are happening in the podcast.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is worth talking about is I have a really fun free guide. It's like a cheat sheet and a worksheet on
Okay.
5 ways to feel better fast.
Ooh.
And so
Okay.
it's designed that so that you can print it, or if you're a digital person, you can edit it all right on your device so that it's really fast. And then you can have your own personalized list of what makes you feel better fast. And so I just named it, not originally, Feel Better Fast. And so it's at brendawinkle.com/feel better fast, all one word, all lowercase.
Oh, that's so great. And I think it's so good to have these in your toolbox because some days you wake up and it's pretty outside and everything's going great. But the days that you really need those things are the days that you don't want to use them. Like it's
Right.
definitely the time when you're like, ugh, I don't need that. I'm already in a bad mood. I'm just going to ride this out. But
Right. Or you get so activated, you can't even remember what you like.
right. Yes, exactly. You're just in such a tizzy. So it's so great if you just had it on your phone. You'd be like, okay, look, boop, boop, boop. Let me go through those
Mhm.
5 things and instantly check because everything can be changed in a moment
It's
all
true.
the time. All the time. It's just amazing to me. And I went through so many years of my life not knowing that, just thinking, oh, well, today was, nothing went well. It's just going to get worse. I'll just ride it out till I go to bed tonight and hope it gets better tomorrow. Well, that's not being very proactive.
No. And I that resonates with me. I did that for years too, not knowing there was another way.
Right, exactly. But that's why we're all here, just to spread
Yeah.
all this great information to all these wonderful, beautiful souls so we can all feel good all the time. And it can be a movement.
Yes. What's your
Everybody can,
favorite way to feel good fast?
oh, I go walk outside, I stretch, I put on great music. And
Hmm.
maybe even get in the car, roll the windows down, and just blow it out and just play the loudest Beyonce think of and
That sounds
dance.
amazing. Yes.
Love to dance. I'll have a dance party in my kitchen about 20 times a day. My kids do it now. It's great. I mean, and 2 of them are in college, but they love to dance. We all love to dance. It's great. So, what's yours?
Oh, dancing it out for sure
Yeah.
is my favorite. My
Hmm.
favorite Lizzo is
Oh,
easy access on my playlist because, oh my gosh, it
now
feels
that
so good.
girl's got some boundaries. I mean, everything she does is just like goals. Like everything about her, she is so authentic. She does not give a shit what anybody thinks. She plays the flute. I mean, why? I play the flute too. So that kind of, I have a little special place in my heart for her for that. But I
Me
just am
too, because
amazed
I
by
was a
her.
band nerd. I mean, I was the band nerd. Holy cow. So I love that she plays the flute. I played the clarinet and the saxophone.
Oh my God. I just did the flute because my mom had it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll play it too. And then, it didn't last long. I think it was just a few years. And then I found other hobbies. But yeah, she nails it all right on the head. And I think that's why she's so successful because she doesn't really care what you have to think. She knows
Right.
what she's about. She knows what her boundaries are. She knows what's important to her. She
Hmm.
wants to get her message out. She has a beautiful voice.
Hmm. And it's the
That's it.
resonance. Yeah.
And everyone is just so um, polarized by it, because it's just such a great message. All of her messages are just wonderful. I love her. So,
Me too.
anyway, Well, this was so great. Will you please just tell everyone where we can find you and all your wonderful stuff that you have coming up? Tell everyone that, please.
Okay. Well, the hub of everything is brendawinkle.com. There you can find a link to the podcast and whatever promotion I'm working on at the time. I am highly intuitive. And so that shifts from time to time, whatever promotion I'm working on. But the Oregon Coast retreat, the Oregon Coast Reiki 1 retreat is coming up in November.
Okay.
And I have spots for 14 women. And so that might fill up by the time this podcast airs. I don't know, but you can
Yeah.
certainly check that out. And I teach a course called Yes Academy, designed to help women say yes to themselves. That's going to be launching in January.
Oh, I love
And just so we can start the new year off all saying yes to the things we really want to say yes to.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
I'm over on Instagram at Brenda Winkle, and I just started on TikTok. So I have like
Oh,
maybe
Lord.
40 people there. So come on, join me over TikTok. It's a
Good
little
for
lonely over there.
you, Brenda. I cannot. I look. Yeah. I just need to try.
Yeah, just try. Come join me. You can
Yeah.
we can be one of each other's followers, and then I'd have like
Okay.
41.
You'll have 41 and I'll have one. That'll be great. Awesome. Well, it was so great talking to you. I'm going to put all that in the show notes and links to everything. So if anybody wants to join your retreat in November, this should come out in the beginning of November. So that would be perfect.
Oh,
And
perfect. And I'll
then
get to see you a week
I
later.
I'm so excited about that. So yeah, we're going to have a great time at that retreat. It's going to be awesome. So,
It
well,
is.
anyway, go have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for all this good wisdom that you just gave us. And
Thank you for
have a
having me.
beautiful
It's such
day.
a pleasure to talk to you.
I know you too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.